I want people, especially adoptees, to have that open forum to express the realities of adoption. I think that a lot of times people focus so much on the adoption industry and the adopted parents and view us on our journey as we adopt a kid, which I can't stand when I see that. Adopted parents online showcasing their children and displaying the traumas and the things that they went through.
Reuniting. Hello, and welcome to Situaseans podcast. I'm your host, Sean Michael Williams, aka seanydoo. You can call me Sean, seanydoo. Does not matter to me. I'm just glad that y'all are here, and I have a special guest here, Jade. She is glad that you're here.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm excited to finally sit down with you after talking and conversing back and forth online. So now that we get to finally sit down and do this, I'm excited.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. I really appreciate you coming out. So Jade is a social advocate, and she is going to tell us more about her story about, being adopted. And we have a great surprise here for you all. Are going to love this episode. She is a transracial adoptee, and she's going to tell us all about that, what that means. And yeah, if you are an adoptee out there or you're planning an adoption, this episode I think is definitely going to help you out and definitely kind of, get the gears turning. So Jade, tell us all about who you are and what you do. Tell us all.
Well, thank you, Sean, first of all, for that introduction. Yes, my name is Jade. I am a transracial adoptee. So for the listeners out there and for more clarity, a transracial adoptee is someone who is a person of one particular race adopted by another. So for myself, I am Mexican and I have been adopted into a white family. So that would be a transracial adoptee. So you see this a lot with international adoptees as well. So people adopted from South America or Asia or any of those other countries that come here into predominantly white families or other families outside of their race and trying to be within that cultural space as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for clearing that up for us. Yeah. That's really interesting. And for someone who as myself, who's not adopted, I never heard that term until, you and I interacted offline. I was like, I wonder what that is. And then, I was like, wow, okay, that's what it means. And also, you listeners might be wondering, especially for those that are watching, hey, what's with this new studio setup space? Where are you, Sean? Well, Situations is on the road, so I'm briefly back in my hometown, Chicago, and Jade and I, we had to do this episode in person,
For sure, yes, it was a must.
Yes, absolutely. So, speaking of Chicago and all things Windy City, can you tell us what are your thoughts about Chicago? Do you love the city?
So I moved here in the dead of winter.
Mm-hmm.
The best idea, I know.
Right, exactly. The perfect time to move.
But I love the snow. I miss the snow. I was living in Puerto Rico for the last 4 years, so I decided to move back to a big city, in Chicago is where we landed. But yeah, I liked it. I liked the snow and just looking out the window and all of that fun stuff. But I'm excited to experience summers here. I've only been back to visit, doing all the touristy stuff, but I kind of want to get into more of the local things and local things to do. So I do want to ask you though, where would you go for the best pizza? Because everyone says deep dish is the thing to do, and I don't know. I went to one spot, but I wasn't super impressed. So
Oh no, yeah. So for all the touristy kind of things, I would say it's a tie between Giordano's deep dish pizza. Some people they like Pequod's. That's another really good deep dish. Yeah. So I think those are probably the top two options. Of course, we'll give an honorable mention to Illuminati's, but I think those are the best as far as deep dish goes.
okay.
And then the true Chicago pizza that people may not know about, I guess people in Chicago would know, but people that probably moved or touring, this is almost like a hidden secret to the new folks in Chicago. But there is a pizza called tavern style pizza, and what that is
Okay.
Yeah. It's like a flat, thin crust pizza, but it's
Okay.
cut into squares. So it's like one circle pizza, but you cut it in like linear, lines. And so you have a bunch of little square pieces in the middle and like little triangular pieces on the outside. So that's the
Okay.
true Chicago pizza.
Okay. You'll have to let me know the good spots to get it at, and I'll
Yeah,
check them out.
yeah, absolutely. I do think the best spot for that, you'll find a couple on the north side. I think, I'll say Rosati's has a good pizza of like,
Nice.
yeah,
I
Rosati's.
have seen them around, but I'm like, is it gonna be like another Domino's or a Pizza Hut? Because they all pop up everywhere. So I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely
Yeah.
try that one out. That sounds good.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And then Home Run Inn is like another good place too for like thin crust. And I think they have deep dish too. But yeah, Home Run Inn is another good one
Okay.
too. So
Definitely look for that.
I can literally talk about pizza all day. But that's so great that you're enjoying like the Windy City and everything. And so yeah, do you want to share with us what kind of brought you out to Chicago?
For work. So my husband and I, we both got jobs out here, so we were working out here.
All right.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. So, kind of jumping on in, so you're a transracial adoptee. So, Mexican adopted by a white family. And so, can you kind of tell us more about your backstory? Like, what was that experience like, and even just the family dynamics and how you fit in?
So it was a lot. So growing up, I'm also a former foster child as well. So I was in the system till about 8 years old before I was adopted by my family. And they were a very conservative, Christian, all American white family. So fitting in with them, I really felt stripped of my culture. And it was not a place that I felt safe. It was
Yeah.
not a good space. So I only stayed with them for about 5 years, and I actually entered back into the foster care system. And then from there, I was adopted again, by another white family who are more progressive. Um, and I lived with them since I was 15. I was adopted again. So yeah.
Oh,
So it was very, very intense. I do dwell more into the story on another podcast with the Adoption Journey podcast. We delve into it, and I spilt my whole life story and everything. But it was definitely growing up as an adult. I have had to relearn and re-navigate my cultural background, and then also teach myself Spanish again, because that was another thing we weren't allowed to do, was speak Spanish.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry that, yeah, in your household that, yeah, like that you were in at the time, you weren't able to speak Spanish. Wow.
Hmm.
So, was it easy to kind of like pick it up again, or like, or
I,
what was that like?
I still feel like I'm in the baby infancy stages of learning. Of course, there's different dialects everywhere you go. Mexican Spanish is very different from Puerto Rican Spanish. So I was teaching myself both sides of that. But I definitely understand more listening to it than I do speaking it. I'm not as confident speaking Spanish because I feel like, oh my God, I'm saying this word wrong, or I'm not enunciating this properly, or I'm using the wrong feminine and masculine verb for this, and so I just like.
Uh, uh,
So I'll catch myself, and then I'll hear someone speaking Spanish to me, and then I'll just answer back in English because I feel like I'm taking too long to translate it in my head, and I'm like, okay, no, 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 just say it back in English. Maybe they'll understand English.
no, también, pero entiendo español más que habla. But I learned,
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty good.
Yeah, I learned Spanish from my best friend's family. So his family is so he's half Mexican, half Puerto Rican.
Okay.
And growing up, they would never let me come over or eat with them unless I spoke the language. They said, if you want to come here over to our house, you got to speak Spanish.
Oh, wow. That's
So,
awesome, though.
yeah. But yeah, I can only imagine like on your end as far as like having to like relearn all that. I'm glad you were able to like get back into it though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a journey, and then also exploring that side of my and reconnecting with my roots, because so in the adoption community we have this term called coming out of the fog.
Mhm.
So we're so wrapped up in the world of being adopted, or um having our identities erased, our cultural backgrounds taken from us, that once we grow up and we have that self-realization, self-actualization, we come out of the fog and we're like, okay, we're looking around trying to find our footing in a world that is not really necessarily made for us.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's relearning everything about ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And like even like kind of growing up, you said you were in a foster home before. Did you have any other, I guess, kind of foster siblings that you bonded with, or maybe that kind of helped you kind of find your place?
So I actually was in foster care with my siblings, my biological siblings. But I choose not to share their story because that's their privacy and their healing journey. So I don't dwell into those situations. But for myself, yes, we were in foster care together until we were until I was 8, and then I was adopted by the first family with my siblings, and I grew up alongside them. So yes,
Ah,
yeah.
okay. How many siblings do you have?
Ah, man, a lot. So my biological mother, she had 8 children. So I am one of 8. Yes.
And you're like in contact with all 8 siblings, or
Not
7? Yeah.
not all of them, but yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
really good. Wow. Okay. And I thought I had a lot of siblings. I'm the oldest of 5, so yeah. So whenever I hear people who had like who are like have like 6, 7 or more siblings, I'm like, wow. Like it's always cool just like just hearing about other big families and stuff like that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And and so I understand, you were brought up in a conservative home. Can you kind of share what that was like, as far as like, I don't know, tell us like what that experience meant for you.
So I think giving now with current events, it's very important for adult adoptees to speak out about their experiences growing up in very conservative households, because I think it sheds a light to how we grew up and how it influences the world around us, right? So for like right now, the the nation I feel is very politically divided, very.
Yeah.
Um, so from there, when I grew up in the household, it was very Republican, church going. This is how it's supposed to be. You can't do this, you can't do that. Homosexuality is a sin. I mean, it was just very forced down our throats. So when I grew up and I realized that there's this whole other world around me that's completely different from what I've been taught, it's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And then you also have to realize when you grow up in homes like this, there is a lot of internal racism that goes on behind closed doors.
Right.
Like I remember hearing conversations where my parents at the time would talk very derogatory about Mexicans and Latinos, and if they want to come to this country, they need to learn how to speak English, and they need to do this and they need to do that, and if they don't like it here, they can just leave. And I would say, I'm Mexican.
Yeah.
Aren't I Mexican? Um, is this something that are you talking about me? Oh no, not you, honey. We don't mean you. We mean them.
Wow.
I'm still the collective of them, though. When I step outside of those doors, away from the umbrella of white privilege that I had with my adoptive family, I look just the same as everyone else out there. There is no differentiating when it comes to racism and bigotry that I will experience out in that world. And that was a big reality check once I became an adult. And first time I'm being followed around in the store, and I'm like, why is this? What is this? I wasn't really prepared for the world and how to navigate as a Latina woman out in the world, because it wasn't something that was taught to me. Like, this is something you can expect in the world, and this is how you should react to certain situations.
Yeah.
To me, it was very, very new.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. I'm so sorry that you have to go through that.
And
Yeah.
to me, I feel like I experienced it and I lived through it, but I need to use my voice and to advocate for it, because there are families out there, and this is not to put judgment on anyone or to shame anyone, but it's just to open that door and that line of communication and understanding for people who do have children that are of a different race, people who are thinking about adopting, or families who are currently fostering children of other races. Like, these are things you really have to consider and do some soul searching on. and education.
Absolutely. And even like, so the family that you had that was very conservative, do you still have any ties with them, or
No,
what is
absolutely
okay.
not. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
no. Once we left there, it was, I never looked back.
Yeah.
No.
I'm glad that you're able to get out of that situation, and yeah, and you know, you obviously made such a great life for yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like the best revenge, is living a life that you've always wanted and doing what you love. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. Trying to improve your skincare game? Guess what? I got a little something for you. You can improve the health of your skincare with the Vogue approved. Yes, you heard that right. Vogue, as in Vogue magazines, the models. Yes, that Vogue. The Vogue approved beauty product, Herbal Face Food, the most potent anti-aging, multi-correction skincare product on the market. Yes. So hit that link in the show notes or video description and use our code SPHFF to get 20% off at checkout. Visit herbalfacefood.com to get started. That's herbalfacefood.com. All right. And use code S as in Sam, P as in pineapple, H as in Henry, F as in Frank, F as in Frank to get 20% off at checkout. That's SPHFF to get 20% off. All right. herbalfacefood.com. Okay. Y'all got the hookup. So let them know that Situaseans podcast sent you. All right. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you came to learn about yourself and your own identity? Even just like speaking Spanish and just reconnecting with your Mexican roots. I want to know your journey through that. Like, when did you wake up and say, you know what, I want to explore my roots and I want to be able to claim my own identity? How did that work out?
I would say it's still a journey that I'm continuously on. Like, I still feel, and I'm sure other adoptees can relate to this. I still feel like there's like this emptiness that's missing, a chunk that's missing, because it was something that was taken from me. So I feel like I'm constantly trying to reattach those roots to not only myself but to my ancestry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so for me, I've always wanted to know where I came from. Where was my family? Like, I knew my biological mother growing up because we would do supervised visitations with her, but I didn't know anything about my father. And then once I was adopted, I lost contact with my older siblings who were not adopted by the family. So there was always that need and that push for me to try to find out where I came from, to reconnect with my family, to have you ever heard the term genetic mirroring?
Oh, I've heard about that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so people find similarities in looking in themselves. And I didn't realize like really how important that was until I had children of my own.
Yeah.
Because when you grow up in families, adopted families, especially a white family, I don't look white.
Right.
Um so when people are like, "Oh, you guys look alike." I mean, clearly they're lying, but um it's that sense of resemblance and that sense of familiarity and connection. So when you don't have that, you're constantly looking for it in other people.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that was very important for me to find my biological family, and I did end up finding my birth mother. But again, I think this is another part of a layer for me to try to learn Spanish and get more educated, is because my mother only spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
So when I met her, I didn't know any Spanish.
Hmm.
So it was very hard to have a relationship with her because there was that language barrier. So in a way, it was I almost felt angry at myself because I didn't have that connection piece to be able to communicate with her and to really get to discover her as my mother as an adult, because I met her again when I turned 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was the interaction like?
I felt it was good, but it was just how can you speak to someone you don't really speak the language?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And to this day, do you kind of still have connect with your birth mom?
So unfortunately, my mother passed
Oh,
away
I'm so
a few
sorry.
years after I met her. but the time I had with her, I do cherish.
That's
I do
good.
cherish, and then, every time I'm in the Texas area, that's where I'm originally from, I'll go and, I'll see her grave. Yeah.
Wow, that's I'm so, like, it's just giving me like goosebumps and just chills of just like how far you came, and even with your children. How many kids do you have?
I have, some bonus babies, and I have, biological children as well, but they're all my babies. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I have 4 kids total.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And do your kids speak Spanish as too? Do you?
I'm teaching them. My youngest one, she's gonna be 2 here soon. I'm like, we're learning Spanish together. You know, she won't judge me as much as the outside world. So we'll watch all the Spanish Duolingo shows and the Spanish with Liz and practice with each other and all that stuff. So
Wow.
I'm teaching myself and I'm teaching her as well. So I tell my other kids, you need to learn Spanish. My son does know how to speak Spanish, but he gets embarrassed.
Yeah.
So I'm like, come on, you need to speak it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's amazing too that you have a big family too, even just among your siblings and like the siblings, children, and like so your nieces and nephews. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I want to know, as far as like your dad, like was he in the picture? What does that look like?
So my parents were not, they didn't really have a very good, healthy relationship. But I did meet my dad when I turned 19. I went to go see him, and I just wanted to meet the man that I came from. Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't a very good man. But I just wanted to see, okay, I do look like him. I do have some of these features. Oh, I do have some of his mannerisms. It's so amazing how, well, you can not grow up with somebody, but still have the same mannerisms, the same looks, the same inflection in your voice, your facial expressions. It really goes with that nature versus nurture.
Yeah, absolutely. And it even like not even like to just go into like the whole sciencey thing, but it also just lets us know like, wow, like there's just so many things about like the human genomes or just
Mm,
human DNA that we still have yet to understand. Cause like to your point, it's like, how is it that someone like, can live in a separate household or live far away or whatever it is, but still have that lineage and have those similar kind of
right.
characteristics? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so even though you have 4 kids, have you and your husband ever thought about, oh, hey, you know what, let's go ahead and adopt or foster?
So yes, we have had that discussion, and it's something we are open to. But with our jobs, we do travel a lot, and we have to move every few years just because of our careers and stuff like that. But we have looked into it. I was actually trying to get into doing foster care here in the Chicago area, and I don't know, it's very weird. The lady said that she's like, "Oh, well, you and your husband both work full time. That could be a problem."
It's like, don't you want both parents to have an income or?
Right. So I thought that was weird. I even asked her. I said, "Do your foster families not have jobs?" She didn't really have an answer for me, so I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
But we're still looking into it. We just, like I said, we just moved to the area, so we're still trying to get familiar and see the avenues of
Yeah.
how to get that done. But yeah, it's definitely something we're considering. And I would say on that note, if you are getting into foster care, they foster parents are needed, and it is definitely something that you should not go into lightly. You have to realize that you're dealing with children that have had trauma, so it's definitely, you need to be educated, you need to be trauma informed, and you have to go into it with the mindset of family reunification. That is huge, because a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot because I don't want to generalize for everybody, but some people go into foster care with the idea, oh, we'll just foster to adopt, or we're just taking care of these kids, and not really having any serious thought behind it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, Family reunification should be the biggest thing that you would want for that child.
Right.
It should not be for them to go to foster home to foster home. We should really be advocating for us to provide resources and support for that biological family to get that child back.
Absolutely. And I'm assuming even like there are cases where people either, adopt or foster. And what would you say the parents who are like, well, I want to adopt or foster, or maybe I currently am adopting and fostering, but, my kid wants to know about their biological parents and their parents are either, like not in the picture fully or they're evil people. Like, how do they navigate that conversation with their child, with their child, if their child
I
is,
think honesty is best. And I don't think cutting I smile because it's funny that you brought that up. So with the first adoptive family I was at, I would always ask questions about my mother because like I stated, I remembered her. I remember going on supervised visits when I was in foster care prior to being adopted. And I would ask them, what was my mom like? Have we heard anything about there? When can I see my mom? Is there any way that we could, maybe call her? Because kids are curious. They do want, like I said, genetic mirroring, and they do have that attachment still. That's not something you should completely cut the cord on,
absolutely,
because that is still a part of them, whether you like it or not. That is still part of their identity.
yeah,
Um, and I would ask my mother at the time, what about my biological mom? Like, what is she doing right now? And I remember this conversation. We were in the car and she was driving. I'm sitting in the back seat and I'm asking about her. And she said, "Oh, I don't think you're ever going to meet her because she died."
wow, so
And I'm sitting in the back seat and I'm crying
yeah,
and I'm crying and I'm crying. And I'm like, wow, I'm never going to see my mom again. And it wasn't until when I got adopted by my second family, I told my mother, which her and I are like best friends, but I told my mother, I said, I really want to find my biological siblings. Even though my mother is dead, I still want to find my older sisters. And my mom's like, that's fine, find them. Let's see what we can do to find them. And I did track them down. And then when I turned, I was doing investigating and leaving messages on people's answering machines and saying, are you my sister? Are you my sister? My name is so and so. I'm looking for you." And some people called back and said, "Oh, honey, I'm not your sister, but I really hope you find her." And one of the numbers I called was my sister. And so we got reconnected and she called me and I was talking to her and I was asking her about my mother. And I said, when did mom pass? Like, did she go peacefully? And she was like, "What are you talking about? She's alive. I just saw her yesterday."
wow, yeah,
And it was like, wow. I grew up all those years thinking that my mother had died.
right.
Yeah.
And turns out your foster mom at the time had lied to you. Yeah,
Hmm.
wow,
My adopted mom,
Dr.
yes.
Mom, yeah,
So, that is a perfect example of like why connection is important, and don't feel like it's taking away, because I know not every adoptive family is cruel and evil. I know this. But I do see how there is space for someone to feel like, oh, well, they're not going to love me anymore. They're going to love me less, or they're going to want their biological parents more. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I don't think you should close that door either, because
right,
unintentionally you're gonna invite that in for them to say, "Oh,
yeah,
let me close the door on you because you didn't want to allow me to explore my part of my identity, part of my culture, part of where I came from, for my own benefit and well-being."
right,
Now, leave that up to the child once they're an adult, whether or not they want to continue and pursue a relationship. But I don't think lying and closing the door on that completely is the way to go.
exactly,
Yeah.
absolutely, wholeheartedly agree. Yeah,
Heavy stuff, I know, but
yeah,
it's
no, this is important.
yeah, I definitely think it's important to have these conversations because I want people, especially adoptees, to have that open forum to express the realities of adoption. I think that a lot of times people focus so much on the adoption industry and the adoptive parents and, view us on our journey as we adopt a kid, which I can't stand when I see that. Adoptive parents online showcasing their children and displaying the traumas and the things that they went through
Oh wow,
for,
yes.
the
Like the sympathy or the dopamine or whatever, social media.
yeah, the
Yeah.
influencer families, but they want to talk about how they adopted these children and all the trauma they went through, and I'm like, that is nobody's business. I can't imagine my parents doing that to me. Like, for me now as an adult, that's for me to share
Mhm.
about the things that I went through. but we had Instagram and social media back then as we did now. Oh my God.
Right. Oh, yeah. Just imagine. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, yeah, even like in my own situation, like growing up. So like my biological father was never in the picture, but unfortunately, like he pretty much just screwed my mom over the entire time that they were like together. They were never married, but just dating or whatever when they had me. And then he left, like my mom had like, left him when I was like 3, and then met my stepdad. He was very abusive towards me and my siblings growing up. Yeah. And would, hit us with whatever he, like the first object he could find, tell us, like you're never going to be nothing. Like, just the worst things that someone can say, he would say it. He had passed away back in September of 2024. I'm sorry, October 2024 from pancreatic cancer. And of course, fuck cancer, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but just deep down in my own journey, like I'd have talked about some of my trauma on this podcast as well, because I'd like my listeners to know, well, who is Sean or whatever.
Right.
But what I'm getting at is, yeah, it even I just want to remind people that, like, yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're adopted or not. Like, yeah, everybody is going to have certain familial dynamics that are complicated, and it is important to find yourself and find your true identity, and yeah, remove yourself from like that environment the same way that Jade did, the same way that I did.
Like I said, the best revenge is living a life you've always wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. There you go. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, can you do me a really quick favor? Can you please rate and review this podcast? Like hit that 5-star review, because, and I do read all the reviews because this helps me know how this podcast is helping others and how, this podcast is serving you, because my job as a host is to serve you this podcast the way that you would prefer it to be. The last family that you grew up with into your adulthood was the more was the more progressive family, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. So you have a close relationship with them. Everything is good. Okay.
Yeah, my mom is like my best friend. We talk all the time. We're actually planning a trip to Europe this summer.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, my mother's Norwegian.
Oh.
So she wants to go back and see her homeland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
So, like, what would your mom say as far as like the whole adoption experience, and and even just taking you and like your siblings in, like, what would she say?
So growing up as an adult, talking about being a transracial, like I didn't even know what transracial adoptee was until a few years ago. I always like, oh yeah, I'm Mexican and I'm adopted by a white family, but I didn't know there was an actual name for it until I started going online, and there's the hashtag listen to adoptees. It's very big. And adult adoptees. So I just started finding this online community, and I said transracial adoptee. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I am.
Yeah.
And I realized there's this whole network of people out there. So I've really grown a big online community. But in doing that, I discovered a lot about myself, and then a lot about just what it means to be an adoptee, and to have to rediscover your culture and who you are, and how families, particularly white families, I just say that because that's the family that I grew up in, but how they really need to be more educated and advocate for their children, right?
Yeah.
So in discovering that, I would have conversations with my mom, and not saying that, you messed up, but I'm like, well, there are some things we kind of, missed the ball on here, Mom. And, she was very receptive to that. I know that, not everyone's family is like that, but she's been very open, like, honey, I should have done more. And had I known what you've showed me, and, what we know now, I would have done more to advocate for you, and to encourage you to take your culture or to do this or to do that. So that's refreshing, to, even though, she's not my biological mother, she's still my mother. and she was still advocating for me and being okay to admit that she had some faults or she had some shortcomings when it came to raising me. That being said, with so many people who are adoptees now speaking out, it's imperative to listen to what we have to say. Whether you don't like it or not, or if it hits a nerve, it's probably for a reason. And so it's good to have some self-reflection to say, maybe what can I take from this? Am I really giving everything that I can to my child to make sure that they're growing up more well-rounded? Because as we know, adoption is trauma.
Yeah.
Whether it was as painless as you feel it was, whether you adopted a child from birth, that's still a traumatic experience on that child. And as they grow up, they're going to have questions, and they're going to have, they're going to look at themselves in the mirror and realize that, hey, they're not like everybody else. Why is that? Who do I look like? Who do I act like? Where do I come from? And those are questions that you have to be okay with and be comfortable with.
Yeah.
Not holding that space for that child is just going to give them more internalized, I don't want to say hatred, but more internalized,
It's almost like conflict.
conflict and even their self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, no, that's a very good point. Very good point. Yeah, it's really good too that your mom was, was very receptive to it all, and and was able to kind of hear your side, and again how it affected you, because I do have a couple friends that are adopted, and even just hearing like online, or just just via whether it's a coworker or whoever, but I don't think I've ever encountered anybody who was adopted that said, "Oh yeah, I have no trauma at all. Like it was a breeze growing up with my adopted family." So to your point, kind of like what you just said, yeah, like every adoptee is going to have a story to tell and something to share with the world. So I really like how you put that. Yeah. And so, yeah, so you're actively working right now to spread awareness, regarding adoption in the foster care industry. Can you kind of like tell us more about, what you're doing behind the scenes and how others that are tuning in can help support that and get more information?
So what I'm doing behind the scenes, I do have a few projects going. I don't want to talk about them openly right now because I feel like I'm the type of person, I say it and then I jinx myself. So once I know something, I'll be sure to let you know, so you can announce it to your listeners out there if they are interested in more exploration in the adoption industry and foster care and all that stuff. Um, but I do want to say there is a conference coming up for the BIPOC community, for BIPOC adoptees in Portland, Oregon. But it's for adoptees who are of the BIPOC community that are welcome to join. It's a free event.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to pay, to of course travel there and stuff like that. But yeah, that's
Right.
I haven't had the chance to make it because every time I do, I'm usually out of town for work, which I will be this year too. So I'm very upset about that. But I'm determined to make the third one. So this is their second one that's coming out, and it's going to be even more amazing than the first one they had last year. I've already heard a lot of good things in the adoption from the adoptees
Mm-hmm.
about it, and so yeah, they're very excited for the second one.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And then let's see, what else am I doing? Aside from going on podcasts and stuff, I do talk with other adoptees and just opening that space and allowing people to vent and hearing their stories and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your social media presence is phenomenal. Like just watching like the reels and like the publications and like the podcasts and everything that you do. Like, yeah, you really are getting your voice out there.
I'm trying to, because I feel like it's important to hear what we have to say.
Yeah.
We have to realize the adoption industry is just that. It's an industry. It's a business.
Absolutely.
And we are the products, quote unquote, behind that business. And, we're not products, we're people.
Yes, that part. Absolutely. Yeah. And so like, yeah, like when did you kind of like, and apologies if I missed this, but like when did you get into like the whole social media journey of just like,
I started that a few years ago because I would tell people, just people in my life or people I encountered, and they're like, wow, you should really talk about this stuff online. Like your story is not necessarily unique, but they're like, damn, you've been through a lot. Like you should be speaking on this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really know though. Like, I don't think anyone really wants to hear what I have to say. And And then I started going online and seeing, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can relate to this. Maybe people will be able to hear what I have to say. And maybe there are people out there that are currently adopted or children that are still currently in foster care, and they can see, oh my God, look at these adoptees now, or look at these former foster kids. Look what they're doing with their lives now. Like, if they can do it, I know I can get there someday. And just having that support system and knowing, like, oh my God, there is life beyond this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially if they're in situations that they may not feel like it's the best place for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Turns out there's hundreds of thousands of people that are tuning into your content, sharing it, and like, yeah, and getting more informed. So
Yeah.
you are literally doing like the good work. So yeah.
I mean, even if it just helps one person out there, or one person gets anything from this podcast to have self-reflection or to just have hope, I'm okay with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what are some misconceptions that people might have about being an adoptee, or even just about the adoption foster care industry?
Oh God, we could go a whole another few hours talking about this. I think the biggest misconception that I see is in the media.
Yeah.
When they always portray foster children or adoptees as like either really crazy or psychotic or somehow have superpowers.
Oh goodness.
Like I was trying to think on the way over here of different types of movies, like Shazam.
Yeah.
All those children are in foster care, and all of them are like, okay, whatever. But then once they get superpowers, now they're great. Why do we always have to represent those children in a certain light? And I don't feel like there's any education behind it. They're like, yeah, let's just give them this really crazy background story and then have them be like super psychotic in the back end. Or like even with what is it? I'm trying to think of some other movies, like Orphan.
Yeah.
Oh my God, she was like a psycho.
Exactly.
They're like,
Yeah.
oh, we adopted her, and oh my God, look at her, she's crazy now. So I do feel like it puts that mentality in some people's heads, like, oh my God, this person's gonna be crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I hope that, especially as social media continues to grow, because I mean, I feel like, we're only 10 years into like the social media boom. I'm sure is going to continue to grow, and then, more people are going to, get educated. But I do hope it turns into a direction where, yeah, more people are using it for good, especially telling like, the stories of adoption and adoptees and what it's like. I mean, especially in Hollywood too.
Oh God, even The Blind Side.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I forgot about that.
In the community I follow, we hate that movie.
Yeah.
There's a very white saviorism mentality in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, if I didn't save you, you wouldn't be where you are today, being this great football player. You wouldn't have done it without me. And then you hear the real story, and they're like, no, they didn't really adopt me. Yeah. They just had guardianship.
And they still benefited from like, yeah, his success.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's insane. Or who was that? I want to say it was a politician of some sort who adopted a child and then left him in a boarding school or somewhere over in Jamaica or something.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Wow. I think I know what you're talking about.
It just happened recently. He was like, they left him over there when he was like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Just had him fend for himself.
And even just that is just like why adopt, or why take on that child if you're going to do that. But then of course, when it comes time for the press and media, he'll make sure that his kid is around. Yeah, you see, I'm a good parent.
Look at my adopted kids. I'm not racist because I have mixed children around me, and I have Black kids, and I have Latino kids and everything else. And it, yeah. Yeah. So I can say from experience, I did grow up in a white conservative family, and yes, they were very racist. Yeah. So just because they adopt children who are of different nationalities does not mean they're not racist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Jade, are there any other things you want to share with our listeners, or any kind of last words to leave our audience off with?
I would say I hope this opens the door for further communication or exploration for people who are wanting to adopt, who people have currently adopted, people who are looking into foster care, and also more importantly for the foster children and the adoptees out there who are currently still in the system or living with adoptive families. Just know that your feelings are valid. Your wants for exploring your own identity is valid. And it's okay to ask those questions. Don't feel shame in it. And just know that life, it does get better. Like it really does. There is light at the end of the tunnel. There is that rainbow. And just know there's a whole online community supporting you guys that are advocating for changes. Like in the state of Texas right now, they're trying to advocate for adoptees to get their original birth certificates.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, did you know that when you get adopted, that they change your birth certificate to your adoptive parent's name?
Whoa, I did not know that.
Yep. So my birth certificate has my adoptive parent's name on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. That's a huge change. So I'm hoping other states follow suit. And yeah, like, yeah, this is definitely really, really good information. Is there like, do you want to share with our audience your social media or where to find you or even just links and resources, whatever you feel comfortable with sharing?
Yep. So my online handle is worldthrujade, THRU. So worldthrujade. I talk a lot on there about adopting and adoptees, and you can see a lot of my followers on there that I follow that are also adoptees. Some really good ones are Adopted Connor. He's a really good advocate. Adoptee Thoughts, love her. Leads with Love, she's another good one.
All right. Sounds good. And if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, you'll see all the links drop down here. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you'll see all the links in the show notes and description. So make sure to check it out. And then, yeah, like, follow Jade on Instagram. You can see all the work that she's actively doing and get involved. Awesome. Now, whether you're on a boat, a plane, a train, hey, maybe you could be, like a colleague or an adoptee out there. You could take Situaseans podcast with you wherever you go. We're everywhere. Make sure to rate and subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, with that, I will see you all back here for the next episode in a couple of weeks. Woo!
Bye.